So I am here just to talk a little bit about the men's retreat and introduce the video that's coming up. But there's so much to say in such little time to say it. But it was just an awesome event. And every guy came with a story, and they all left with a different story. And the place was far better than I could have imagined. And I've always heard that, God moves and trust in God, and He'll always be there. But just to share a personal story, this is the second men's retreat that we've had since I've been men's ministry director. And the first one was at Leavenworth back in, I believe, 2019 or 18 or something like that. And I didn't do a lot of the planning for it. Pastor Greg did a lot, and then the admin staff did it. And he was a speaker. I was one of the speakers. But then we had Tim Rogers, and so he spoke, 2 of the 4 times. And it was like, for me, it was a kind of a crutch a little bit. I didn't have to carry anything because I always had these other powerhouses there. And so on this one, it was different in that Pastor Greg helped me find this spot, but then I, did all the arrangements and everything, and I was like, man, I hope everyone has a good time. And Friday, I spoke with Pastor Greg, and we were ready to go, and ready to rock and roll. And then Sunday, I get this text that he's not feeling well. So I'm still thinking he's going to be good to go. And then later that afternoon, Starlene says he's not going. And she says, well, he was supposed to speak on Wednesday to close it out, but maybe you can come up with a part 2. And I'm thinking, it took me months to come up with part 1. Let alone part 2. And so as I'm driving there, I'm starting to panic a little bit. And it was like all the insecurities come out. You can't do this. And, what are you going to do? And blah, blah, blah. And so as I'm driving there, I just said, Lord, this is your event. And I'm just the mediator, the facilitator of the whole thing. And I have to say that in Joshua, when the transition from Moses to Joshua happened, God told Joshua that I will never fail you or abandon you. And God showed up in a way that I have not personally been able to say, He met me there where I was. And it started from the first day all the way through the end of the night. And on the last night, we did something unique in that Matt and I split the last sermon for the night. And it was an interesting thing where, I was saying to myself, it took me 2 months just to come up with the one thing I had to say, but God put something in my heart the morning of, and I wrote it all out, presented it, and I could have probably went the entire hour, but, since Matt was me, I cut it down. And then Matt spoke, and it was just so anointed. And then we just said, you know what, guys? If anyone wants to get up and share what God has done, then come on up. And the thing lasted 2.5 hours that last night. And it didn't seem like it was 2.5 hours, but God had moved. And one guy gave his life to the Lord that night. And it was such a great experience in that the theme of it was seize the opportunity, but through everyone's either devo or message that they shared, conquering fear was woven through all of it. And guys got out of their comfort zone and grew. We had guys that were doing devo that never done devo before. And And it was powerful devos. It wasn't just like this little wimpy thing. I mean, it was powerful. And so every guy that came left better than they had arrived. And even though there were a lot of activities that we were doing, it wasn't the activities that made the difference. It was the time in between when we had a lot of free time of them just talking with one another, playing games, and just hanging out, as Billy has said in the Devo this morning, just laughing with each other. And that's when you really got to know people. And chains were broken, bonds were formed, forgiveness and healing had come over that 3 days. And it was the most amazing time. And my heart breaks that Pastor couldn't come. And it just really breaks because I know we were really planning on this whole thing. And I'm so, so sorry that you couldn't make it. But God filled in for him and made it everything that we could have possibly dreamed or imagined. And so with that, I want to introduce the video that Matt had over 2 hours worth of material that he had to cut down to about 7 minutes. So here we go.